today's show.
The Bucks ride Splash Mountain to a Game 1 win, but did the Raptors blow their chance to steal home court advantage?
We'll break down what to expect in Game 2 of the Western Finals.
And Zion has everyone going crazy in a brand new edition of the Meme Team.
It's Thursday, May 16th. The starter starts now.
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to the starters presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey. I'm J.E. Skeets, alongside me as always, Tass Mellis. We got the Aussie Lee Ellis, and over yonder, that's the bearded one. That's Trey Kirby.
Hey-o!
Hey, yo! Trey, what's up?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag the starters. And guys, not only was Brook Lopez all over the place in Game 1 last night, he also gave us the funniest moment in the game when cameras cut to him late in the fourth quarter, clapping up a storm after the Bucks had essentially iced the game. Asked about his clap going viral after the game, Lopez exclaimed, "I'm immortal now!" Which sounds exactly like something Brook Lopez would say, and it brings us to today's question. Yesterday, we asked you for the funniest NBA slap. Today, we want to know the funniest NBA clap. For me, it's got to be the time Joakim Noah saw Chris Bosh yelling at Mario Chalmers, just sidled up next to him to celebrate the drama. You're not going to believe this, the Heat end up beating the Bulls, of course, in that series. Nonetheless, we want to hear from you, so let us know on Twitter. What is the funniest NBA clap? Send them to us at hashtag the starters. We'll hear from you later.
All right, get your tweets in. On tonight's show, we're going to look ahead to Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. We got a brand new edition of the Meme Team. We got a very solid play. But let's start with a little true or false. It's the playoffs edition, looking back at Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Trey, take it away.
If the Raptors are going to win the Eastern Conference Finals, they've got to win at least one game in Milwaukee, and it could have been Game 1, as Kyle Lowry went for 30 and the Raps took a 7-point lead into the fourth quarter. But Toronto went ice cold in the fourth and failed to score in the game's final 3.5 minutes as the Bucks came from behind to win Game 1. Guys, true or false? The Raptors blew their chance.
Yeah, the Raps know that they blew their chance in Game 1. They should have taken that game, no doubt about it. The Bucks just played their worst game of the series. They've shown twice in the postseason when they have a lot of rest, going into the second round against Boston, now going into Toronto, that they don't start that well. That first half looked like varsity versus JV. The Raptors looked faster to every single ball. They looked bigger. They looked more talented. They shouldn't have just been up by 8 going into the second half when the Bucks made a heck of a lot of improvements. The Raptors hit 2 buzzer beaters in this game. There's a lot going the Raptors' way. And the Bucks, even though they missed 33 threes, even though they shot under 40%, they still get a victory because the Raptors weren't able to close this one out. Now, they can make some moves for Game 2, but I think no matter what, the Bucks are going to play better, regardless of tactician and regardless of schemes. The Bucks, I think, just got their worst game out of the system already.
I have to agree with you. I think it's true because you had a Kyle Lowry game. This was maybe this is no doubt one of the best games Kyle Lowry's ever played in the playoffs. I've seen every game he's played for the Raptors. It's up there on the short list. It's top 3, maybe top 2. You had Giannis being contained for the most part. Didn't go off. Still got his numbers because he's an MVP, but they threw a lot of guys at him. They slowed him down. You already said it, Tass. Bucks shot 25% from 3. And they still get the win. And it was a close game, of course, and then the Raptors just went ice cold in the final 3.5. That really did them in there when they took a 2-point lead, and it's anybody's game, and then they couldn't score. And it was really just Lowry in the fourth. And, I mean, I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Were the Raptors just the more tired team, both coming off of a 7-game series versus the Sixers and the Bucks having the rest, but even the heavier minutes for their starters in this game and that pace they were playing in the first half? Did it catch up to them?
Yeah, that's the concern for the Raptors, that a lot of their starters played heavy minutes, whereas for Milwaukee, even though their bench outside of Brogdon wasn't all that great as far as scoring the ball, Ilyasova got a couple of baskets, everyone else who just came on contributed in some way. George Hill, defense, he was fantastic, didn't score at all, but everyone who was out there for Milwaukee looked a little fresher, a little more energetic, whereas the Raptors, I think it did. The last series sort of caught up to them a bit. They came out so motivated and so determined, but weren't able to finish it off. And once the Bucks got that little lead, you could just feel the Raptors didn't really have much of an offensive identity going last night either. Kawhi, by his standards, wasn't great. Kyle was the only one scoring. And again, Siakam had 7 3-pointers in the corner. Missed them all.
Yep.
Norm Powell and Fred VanVleet, when they came out, in the first half they hit a couple of baskets, but that was it. And this is the biggest problem for Nick Nurse right now, is that bench. He is just holding on for dear life when he has to go to someone of that bench because he just can't trust them.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a huge problem going forward.
Yeah, but them being tired can't be an excuse because they knew coming into the series that their bench was a heck of a lot thinner than the Bucks bench. Yeah, the Bucks played twice as many minutes off their bench than the Raptors did. Malcolm Brogdon outscored the Raptors bench by himself because he's a starter playing on the bench. They just found their flow in the second half, the Bucks did. It feels like Giannis Antetokounmpo had no free throws in the first half. That's not going to happen again. We saw in the Celtics series, he started really slow. The Celtics took game one, just like the Raps should have taken game one. And then, Giannis got better. The whole team got better. They started playing well around him. Good sign for the Raps. You said Kawhi Leonard didn't play all that well. He didn't. 26 shots took him to get 31 points.
Yeah. Not efficient.
I think it wasn't very efficient. I think there's guys stunting at him. They showed him a lot of different looks. He'll be more used to that in game two. He'll just be in a better flow, I would think. Chris Middleton's a very good defender on him.
Yeah.
I think he is pretty solid, and Middleton did absolutely nothing on the other end. Siakam guarded Antetokounmpo, did absolutely nothing on the other end.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple issues there. You're guarding your two best players with a couple of your best defenders. You got to score a little bit on the other end.
I rewatched this fourth quarter this morning because I'm an idiot and I like the punishment of it all, being a Raptors fan. And I thought, we were talking about that final 3.5, but I actually thought they sort of lost this game in the first 3.5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And that's when a lot of these bench guys were out there with some starters, but it was not pretty. You had Norm missing a wide open layup underneath.
Yeah.
Fred VanVleet had a couple nice looks. There was a jumper, there was an open three he stepped into. He couldn't knock it down. And on the other end, Bucks were just playing with a little more aggression, a little more locked in. They were getting some offensive rebounds. And that's when that lead that Siakam hit that buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter, it was gone in those first 3 minutes or so. And Lowry was doing everything he could to sort of even keep them in the game because he was the only one hitting shots. But that's where they sort of let go of the rope to me. And credit to the Bucks. I mean, Lopez was great, and we're going to get to him in a second. The guy got fire in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but he said as well, like, he didn't try to make it all about himself after the game. He was just talking about how collectively they stuck with it and they kept encouraging each other.
Yeah.
If you're open, shoot it. Take those shots. We've got to take those shots. We've got to knock them down. Because it's not uncommon for a team that's had a week off to be a little bit rusty getting those shots to fall, but they just stayed with it. Whereas the Raptors, outside of Lowry and outside of Leonard, no one really sort of stood up and said, all right, I'm going to go and get a couple of baskets here. There was either lack of trust from Lowry and Leonard, or those other guys just weren't there really making a name for themselves.
Let's have one moment of positivity for Kyle Lowry, because he continues to get ripped whenever he doesn't perform in the postseason. For years and years and years when he doesn't have a good day. Kyle Lowry was phenomenal. He grabbed that ball when Kawhi Leonard hit that shot in Game 7 of the Sixers series. He brought over the game ball to Kawhi Leonard, presented it to him, and then carried over into a second conference finals here with the Raptors and was the best player on the floor. He was phenomenal stepping into every single shot. It was very cool to see him perform in those moments.
Can he do it a couple games in a row? That's sort of
very
always
hard.
the question mark with Kyle in a playoff series.
But that was
he can have the
yeah.
moments and he can have the bad games. But look, Raptors fans, if this is the type of Kyle Lowry you're going to see in this series, then okay, you're only down one here. You want to get the split in Milwaukee. Maybe you still have a series if he can play this way throughout the whole thing. And
I wouldn't
that's tough to
expect
say.
7 of 9 from
Exactly.
three-point land.
Yeah.
But that was probably his best game I've seen.
But
Yeah.
you know what you can expect is he throws his body on the line
Oh,
every
the
single
ball
game.
he saved while
Yeah.
it was going out on the sidelines
Yeah.
there in
It
front
was a
of Marv.
great beach volleyball move.
Yeah.
Incredible, incredible. All right, Trey, next one.
Brook Lopez must have watched some Disney movies yesterday because he was magical in Game 1. Lopez went for 29 points and 11 rebounds in the win. He knocked down 4 threes, including 3 in the fourth quarter. He blocked 4 shots, clapped 100 times, and then he wore a Toy Story hat to the press conference. That's true. True or false, guys? The Raptors don't have an answer for Brook Lopez.
Well, that's false. They've got an answer for Brook Lopez, but at what cost will that come? I mean, if you want to stop him, you put Kawhi on him and he won't get those 29 points. But that's the problem here for the Raptors is, what do they do now? Marc Gasol doesn't really want to come out, so does he bring Serge Ibaka out there onto him to try to maybe nullify Brook somewhat? But the thing is with Brook, he's so confident. He's got such range as well with that three-pointer.
And he's a giant, too. It doesn't matter
Exactly.
who really's on him. He shoots it so high. Look at
But he's also, he's not someone who then, like Enes Kanter, for example, who gives up on the defensive end. He actually plays very hard.
And he
uses that
rebounded in Game 1.
huge body.
11
He
boards.
blocks shots. He's just a big presence there. So he's such a factor in this series, and the Raptors have to figure out a way to maybe not let him be the one that they leave open. If you go into this game and your Nick Nurse say, let someone outside of Giannis beat us, well, okay, he did in that game, and maybe you want to stick with that strategy. Maybe Brook doesn't hit 4 threes.
Right.
But really, the Raptors do have to not let a guy like that, who's transformed his game, get hot and confident.
Yeah, clearly that was the plan. Stop Giannis, get a bunch of bodies in the lane, and hope those three-point shooters, outside Middleton. Kawhi was kind of hanging on Middleton, but Lopez, Mirotic, Ilyasova, they were open.
They had looks, yeah.
They did. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is very much a weapon. It's very difficult to stop him. So, yeah, there are a lot of bodies on him. Lopez isn't at the three-point line. He's 2 feet behind the three-point line because they're giving him even more space. They're giving Giannis even more space in there. He's able to hit those shots. And Marc Gasol, it's a very tough cover for him. I think Serge Ibaka has to get more minutes at the 5 spot. It just has to be that way. I would swap them. I would make the change. This is what the plan was when you acquired Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol is great for the big bodies. He's there for Joel Embiid. It worked in the first 2 rounds, but Serge Ibaka can get out there. He made a lot of mistakes in this game. Don't get me wrong. But he is able to get out there on the three-point line a little bit more. So Gasol makes sense, I think, even with the second unit, getting those bench guys going, getting himself going. He was 2 of 11 in this game. Put him at the elbow. He'll make plays for others and himself if he's sort of the fulcrum of the offense. But Ibaka was not perfect by any means.
No, and when Ibaka plays well in the playoffs, when he scores 10-plus points on the offensive end, the Raptors usually win. He's like 2-5 when he's under that, and he gave them nothing in Game 1. With Brook Lopez, I'm fine with the 4 for 11 shooting. I mean, that's not lights out. He hit timely threes, don't get me wrong, but that's not lights out. That's what his average was during the regular season. It was all the other stuff Brook Lopez was doing. Getting the offensive rebounds, obviously rejecting shots at the rim, and even just challenging guys in there and making them think twice. It's all that stuff.
There.
I mean, he's a legit monster.
Yeah.
That then steps out and hits these like 27, 28-foot bombs. He's a nightmare. But, Game 5 last series, he was 0-7 from 3, had a bunch of 1-for-4s in that series. He can go cold.
Yeah.
So I don't think you freak out. I'm with you, though. Serge needs to get more minutes, and it can at least stay with him a little bit more. But then he's got to do a good job of, playing defense and boxing him out and being as strong and physical as he can. I think Serge can do that. But that's you're asking a lot from him.
You're asking a lot, because then he is the sort of the secondary defender on Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's what you're asking him to do. You're asking him to be 2 sets of eyes. It's very, very difficult. Yeah, the question is, Nick Nurse is, do you get guys more out on those 3-point shooters rather than just watching Giannis the entire game?
That's what we talked about heading into this series. Exactly that. What's the strategy? Let Giannis go nuts, going for 50, but take away all these guys? Or what they did in Game 1, throw multiple bodies at Giannis, like the Bucks were doing with Kawhi, and make everybody else beat you.
That might be the strategy, though, for Game 2. It's let's see if Giannis can go for 45 and not have those other guys get hot. Because the Bucks don't want to play that way.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what Nick Nurse
So you
tries.
lean into that idea.
Yeah, it's just, all right, well, let's go. Let's see if Giannis can do it, because there has been some success with that strategy.
The scary part with the Bucks, too, is they have so many shooters. It was Brook Lopez in Game 1. Who's to say in Game 2 it's not Middleton who's on fire? Mirotic, Ilyasova.
Brook Lopez was 8 of 10 from 2-point land. He got 16 points basically
That's
in
the other
paint.
stuff we're talking about.
He's either spin move.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's either shooting threes from so far back, or he's basically just dropping it in.
Yeah.
We heard Reggie and Chris Webber on the call saying they didn't know he had that in the repertoire, which is a good diss. It's a very good diss, but he's got it in the repertoire. The guy was a 20-point scorer for many years in this league.
When we come back, brand new edition of the Meme Team. Every week, we scour the internet to bring you the Meme Team, our favorite weird and wacky moments from the NBA universe.
At number 5, it's the ups and downs of the draft lottery. Start with Knicks fans initially thinking they're getting the number 1 pick, and then not so much. When the Pelicans ticket office found out they got the number 1 pick, well, they were very happy.
Grizzlies.
They sold a couple thousand season seat packages for the guy they think they're going to pick. Now, this isn't Zion Williamson, but House of Highlights thinks that this could be Zion Williamson's first season in the NBA.
I hope so.
He's that hyped.
That's awesome. At number 4, shout out to Andrew and Zoe for getting creative with their engagement photos by recreating some iconic NBA moments for the big shoot here. Yeah, you had the Wade and LeBron, AI stepping over Lou, very well done. Vince leaping the Frenchman there in the 2000 Olympics. And then a little KD and Harden. I'm glad they went with KD and Harden and not KD and Russ.
At number 3, Lakers fans organized a protest outside Staples because many of them are unhappy with team management. Well, this guy has a plan. Sign LiAngelo Ball, draft LaMelo Ball, hire LeVar Ball, and others had terrible ideas, including Nick Young as president.
Nick Young be the best GM ever. Amazing GM. He would get anyone he wanted. Any free agent. KD would be like, oh, Nick's there? I'm coming. Kawhi, I'm coming.
First things first, fire everyone. Second thing, get all the best players back.
Jack Black has some good ideas.
I like that guy. At number 2, Kawhi in the corner, game 7, 4 bounces, the squat, the celebration. Oh, someone has mashed it up with Nick Nurse in the classic reaction. And ESPN compared it to that shot bouncing around, like waiting for that text to come back. You know, you see the bubbles, you see the 3 dots down there. Are they gonna write back? Are they actually gonna write back? Is this thing ever gonna drop here? Is it gonna fall today? Maybe. Yes, yes, yes. Sweet.
At number 1, 2 courtside queens at Warriors-Rockets Game 6. Bay and Amelia Clark there because Daenerys Targaryen. Amelia Clark was in the house. Clutch, the mascot, brought a coffee. Very, very topical.
Very timely.
He bent a knee.
House Clutch has pledged fealty.
Oh, wow. Her proper title.
Oh, that's
Very
right.
well done.
Titles.
Very funny.
And then when Curry went off for 33 in the second half, Craig Malamut tweeted, Steph showing Amelia Clark how to end a series.
Oh, shots fired! Shots fired at the Game of Thrones writers.
Hope they're not watching.
When we come back, we're going to look ahead to Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Blazers and Warriors tonight. Don't go anywhere.
The Starters is presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey.
Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals goes down tonight on ESPN. Blazers trying to get the split in Oakland. Now the Warriors are going to be without Kevin Durant again. He's out with that calf strain. But the Warriors looked phenomenal in not only their Game 1 win versus the Blazers, but going back to Game 6 of the last series versus the Rockets. So I'm not going to ask you whether the Warriors are better without Kevin Durant. But as a fan, are the Warriors more enjoyable to watch? Are they more fun to watch without Kevin Durant? What do you think?
Yes and no.
Whoa!
It's hard because Kevin Durant's such a great player. He's an MVP player. It's more just that since he joined that 73-9 Warriors, I think that sort of took a little bit of the shine off that team. Because they just, you know, when Steph and Clay burst onto the scene, no one saw that coming. And then when they had the Warriors had, or the Thunder had the Warriors there to be beaten in 2016 and they weren't able to do that, and then Durant joined them, it was kind of like, that sort of made it look too unfair. They were too good. So now that he's not there, it's been fun watching Steph.
But they play a different style here
so
without
different.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I know,
That's
but
what I'm getting at.
my point is, like, the last couple of games, we haven't seen Kevin Durant. It's been great to see old Steph again.
Okay.
So
The answer
So
is
you're
yes?
saying yes. I do. I think it's more fun to watch just because the Warriors are more apt to get dragged into an isolation game. If Kevin Durant is playing, there will be some switches, and Katie's maybe one of the top 2 or 3 ISO guys right there with James Harden. So it's a smart move to play Kevin Durant in ISO basketball. It's fun to watch Kevin Durant go off when he's playing ISO basketball. But the Warriors that burst onto the scene, like you're saying, Lee, the ball moved, they ran the court a bunch, everybody was clapping, everybody was celebrating with each other. They were celebrating every kind of play they made, and that's what it's been like the past 2 games. It's been fun to watch, no doubt.
Yeah, I think we sort of overestimate how much they're moving now and that they didn't move when Kevin Durant was there. Steph still did a lot of pass the ball, relocate all the time, even when Kevin Durant was there. They tried to balance the buttery, silky smoothness of that ISO game of Kevin Durant with Steph and Clay. What the thing I like about this is that now we just get to watch Steph and Clay as number 1 and number 2 options just bombing away. And that's the fun part. Clay having more of a role because he is a capable guy and seeing how much he can do it off the bounce because we don't see a lot of that. And Steph just bringing it up and firing a little bit more. So yeah, it's just different a little bit, but I like watching Kevin Durant score a lot as well.
Fair enough. Just
And that
throwing it
guy-
out there to you guys. Jump on Twitter as well, #TheStarters. Looking at this game specifically, we talked about it after Game 1. The Blazers, their defensive strategy to drop the big, Cantor generally staying in the paint, letting Steph walk in to some of these uncontested threes, and he hit a whole lot of them, hit 9 in Game 1. Stotts was asked about it after the game, had a snarky answer, then he walked it back and said, we got to maybe look at that and how we played that. Will we see a different defensive strategy in terms of trying to get the ball out of Curry's hands when that high pick and roll comes, especially if it's Looney setting that pick, and force somebody else to beat you? Or will the Blazers do what they've sort of done all season and play this type of D? What do you think?
Well, they definitely won't do what they did in Game 1, letting Steph have these wide open shots.
Right.
Exactly what they will do, I'm not sure, whether they'll try to get the ball out of his hands or not, but you just know that didn't work. It backfired big time. And Terry Stotts was obviously frustrated after the game with that question and then realised, it was a fair question to ask. And so that's why he walked it back. But you just think that the Blazers know that this is the one. If they can somehow pinch this one tonight, then the series is back on. But if they go down 2-0,
Sorry, man. I've never heard somebody say pinch this one when it comes to talking about a basketball game. Pinch this one?
yeah, if you pinch it, like you steal it. You gotta
Okay,
steal
okay,
it.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm curious to see what the Blazers do tonight. You just pinched my paper.
I know, see?
I kind of think
Paper
they should
pincher?
start Zach Collins, because I don't necessarily think Enes Kanter is the kind of guy who's going to be trapping the pick and roll up high on the court. Zach Collins moves his feet a little bit better. He can at least get sort of to the level of the screen, because a lot of these, it's not necessarily a bad defensive plan. It's no defense at all. Enes Kanter's not even following the screener up there. Just have somebody, I think it should be Collins, walk up with the screener. That way the shot isn't there right away. Then you can bring Kanter off the bench. You can crush it all in the offensive glass.
I kind of hope the Blazers have a bad game just so we can hear some more Stotts thoughts after the game.
Stotts.
And being a little upset. I love Terry Stotts, but I like angry Terry Stotts even more.
I like angry Stotts, but I'd like a better series, a more
Oh
competitive
yeah,
series.
the Blazers won Game 2 on the road in Denver. There will be a grittier effort out there for sure.
Hope so. All right, got to take one more break. When we come back, Lily's very solid play unless Trey pinches it from him. Maybe we'll go with
You
TK
never know.
play. There is CJ McCollum arriving at the Oracle, just like Chris Bosh arriving at Game Time set. That's coming up next, by the way. We asked you, what's the funniest NBA clap? You hit us up on Twitter, hashtag the starters. You got anything better than Brooke?
There are some good claps out there, but I gotta warn you, the Raptors do stay getting clapped at. Here's Kevin Durant clapping at Jose Calderon back in the day, but don't worry, the Raptors get their claps in too. Drake, one of the great clappers in the game.
Yep.
Also great was when Luka Doncic saw himself on the big screen. Hey, that's me. I love me. One of my favorites, Steve Ballmer clapping, being hyped and doing the weird arm celebration. I think this was during a Fergie performance. Yeah, there you go. That's
Yeah,
the bottom.
it was.
But my favorite answer comes from Gustavo, this security guard, getting up and cheering before realizing, oh, I'm on camera.
It's all right. You can
Like a
cheer,
guy being a
man.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just cheer,
What's
man.
better than this?
What's better than this? Clapping in an NBA game. All right, very solid play. What do you got?
This is better than clapping at an NBA game. It's a very solid play here from the Bucks. Look at this ball move around and look at the big Brogger Dogger. Wide open for a three. Beautiful stuff. Here it is again. Georgie, keep it going.
This is
there.
very solid.
Yeah.
I hope. Hey, why don't you clap your thumbs here? You think you can clap your thumbs?
clap those.
Try it. I don't know what that means.
That's what
Try
I thought.
Try it. There you go.
Very solid play. Ooh.
Looks like you're starting a thumb war.
Yeah.
Looks like you're pinching your nose.
Drop podcast tomorrow. We'll get it up as soon as possible. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Catch Chris Bosh with the crew starting now.
Yeah, yeah. Tricky.